The Watchers depart. The crystalline spires of the Zirconian Central Command pierced the violet skies of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Within the Grand Chamber, High Administrator Galactic drummed his iridescent fingers against the quantum glass table, his secondary breathing gills fluttering with barely contained frustration. You expect me to maintain full surveillance on a pre-FTL species that still relies on chemical propulsion? His voice carried the distinctive harmonic resonance of the ruling class. Do you understand our current resource constraints, Observer Kethran? Observer Kethran stood before the administration panel, his normally blue-tinted skin taking on a deeper azure hue of conviction. After 15 cycles of monitoring Earth, he had developed an unusual fascination with the species. High Administrator, the humans display unique characteristics in their developmental pattern. Their theoretical understanding of quantum mechanics exceeds their technological capabilities by an unprecedented margin. Resource Minister Velthor, a tall figure with crystalline growths characteristic of the elder Zirconians, leaned forward. Numbers, Observer. Give us numbers. In the past solar cycle alone, their quantum theoretical models have advanced by 37%, while their practical applications remain limited by their industrial capabilities. This disconnect is unusual. Unusual does not justify the continued deployment of 3 monitoring stations and a full complement of stealth satellites, Galactic countered. The hegemony war depleted our resources. The Outer Rim colonies demand increased protection. We cannot waste assets on a species that might become interesting in a few hundred cycles. Kethran projected a holographic display showing Earth's internet traffic patterns. They imagine technologies they cannot build. Their entertainment media consistently depicts advanced space travel scenarios with remarkable theoretical accuracy. It's as if they're rehearsing for a future they expect to have. Imagination is not a strategic concern, Velthor dismissed with a wave of his crystalline hand. The humans still struggle to reach their own moon. Their most advanced AI systems are primitive by our standards. Their energy production relies on burning fossil fuels and basic atomic fission. But their rate of advancement, Kethran began, is irrelevant, Galactic interrupted. The decision is made. Surveillance operations in the Sol system will be discontinued. Stations will be decommissioned according to standard protocols. In the observation post orbiting Jupiter, junior technician Nira Lin watched the shutdown sequence initiate across their systems. The massive array of quantum sensors that had monitored Earth's communications for nearly 2 decades began powering down one by one. This feels wrong, she said to Kethran, who had come to oversee the final withdrawal. We're leaving them completely unwatched. Kethran moved to the main viewport, his reflection ghostly against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms. The High Administrator sees numbers and resources. He doesn't see what we've seen. Their potential? Their drive. Kethran's skin rippled with patches of darker blue. Most species follow predictable patterns of technological development. The humans, they dream beyond their capabilities. They reach for the impossible again and again, despite repeated failures. The main computer core began its shutdown sequence, decades of collected data being compressed and archived. Nira Lin checked the final systems diagnostic. Should we at least leave automated warning buoys? No. Complete withdrawal. Those are our orders. Kethran watched as the last active screens went dark. The humans will either stagnate like so many other pre-FTL civilizations, or they'll surprise us all. He turned away from the viewport. Make a final log entry, technician. Nira Lin's fingers moved across the console. What should I record? Note that Observer Kethran formally protests this withdrawal and recommends review within 5 cycles. Not that anyone will read it. As the last Zirconian personnel boarded their transport vessels, the massive observation complex went dark. The quantum entanglement communicators fell silent. The stealth field generators powered down. In the void of space, the stations became just another cluster of debris orbiting the gas giant. Far below, in a subterranean facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Olivia Hammond stared at her monitoring equipment with growing confusion. The strange quantum fluctuations she'd been tracking near Jupiter for the past 3 years had suddenly vanished. Director Rhodes, she called out to her supervisor. The signal's gone. All 3 of them, actually. They just disappeared. Director Rhodes barely glanced up from his tablet. Solar interference? No, sir. These signatures were distinct. They operated on principles we barely understand. She pulled up the archive data. It's like someone turned off a light switch out there. Write up your findings for the quarterly review, Rhodes said dismissively. But focus on the practical applications we discussed. The Defense Department isn't interested in theoretical anomalies. Olivia nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the empty sensor readings. For 3 years, she'd studied those quantum signatures, convinced they held secrets about space-time manipulation that could revolutionize human understanding of physics. Now they were gone, leaving behind only recorded data and questions. She couldn't know that she was right about the signature's importance. Nor could she know that the Zirconians' greatest mistake wasn't in watching humanity. It was in leaving behind traces of their technology that human scientists like her would study, reverse engineer, and ultimately surpass in ways the galaxy's oldest civilization never imagined possible. The clock was ticking on the greatest miscalculation in Zirconian history, and humanity, finally unwatched, was about to take an evolutionary leap that would shake the foundations of galactic society. Silent evolution. 8 years passed since the mysterious quantum signatures vanished from Jupiter's orbit. In that time, humanity had undergone a transformation that would have left the Zirconians speechless had they been watching. Dr. Olivia Hammond stood in the heart of Project Ascendant, a vast underground complex beneath the Antarctic ice. Banks of quantum computers hummed around her, their crystalline matrices glowing with an otherworldly blue light. Before her, a holographic display showed the test results from humanity's first successful faster-than-light drive. The phase variance is stable, reported Dr. Raj Patel, her chief engineer. His dark eyes sparkled with excitement as he manipulated the holographic data. We finally cracked it, Olivia. The quantum wake signature is completely different from the theoretical models we extracted from the Jupiter signals. Olivia nodded, her silver-streaked hair catching the light of the displays. Those 3 years studying the alien quantum signatures had led to this moment. But instead of copying what they'd observed, humanity had taken those principles and evolved them into something entirely new. General Matthews needs to see this, she said, reaching for her secure comm unit. Within minutes, the commanding officer of Project Ascendant strode into the quantum lab, his presence commanding despite his casual dress. Dr. Hammond, he greeted. I hear we've had a breakthrough. More than that, General. She gestured to the main display. We're ready for a manned test flight. The Hyperion is fully equipped with our phase shift drive. But here's the crucial part. It doesn't just move through space faster than light. It moves through a dimension slightly adjacent to normal space-time. The General's eyebrows rose. Like those signals you track near Jupiter? No, that's what makes this remarkable. Those signatures showed technology that bent space. We've developed something that slides between spaces. It's more efficient, harder to detect, and theoretically capable of speeds they never achieved. In high orbit above Earth, the Hyperion waited in its docking cradle. The ship resembled no conventional spacecraft. Its hull was a complex lattice of crystalline structures and dark metal, designed to channel quantum energies in ways that defied traditional physics. Captain Waitchen stood on the bridge, running through pre-flight checks with his crew. After 2 years of simulator training, they were about to attempt humanity's first faster-than-light journey. Engineering, status report. Phase shift drive at full capacity, Captain. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka responded from her station. Quantum matrix stable. All systems nominal. Wei took a deep breath. Humanity had kept this project secret from the world, knowing that when they finally succeeded, they needed to present not just a breakthrough, but a complete transformation. Begin launch sequence. The Hyperion detached from its cradle, moving silently through space. As it cleared Earth's orbital space, Wei gave the command they'd all been waiting for. Engage phase shift drive. Reality flickered around them. The stars shifted from points of light to streaks of brilliance. The Hyperion didn't so much move through space as slide sideways into a realm where distance had different rules. In less than an hour, they reached Mars. Position confirmed, Yuki announced, her voice tight with controlled excitement. We're in orbit around Mars. The journey took 53 minutes. Conventional travel time would have been 6 months. Wei allowed himself a small smile. Send the confirmation signal to Project Ascendant. Phase 1 is complete. Back in Antarctica, the project's success sparked a new phase of humanity's silent evolution. Within months, 5 more ships joined the Hyperion. Within a year, that number grew to 20. Each vessel incorporated improvements and refinements to the original design. First contact shattered. The Zirconian patrol vessel Eternal Vigilance cut through the darkness of space, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Commander Dexval stood on the bridge, his iridescent scale shifting with subtle irritation. Another routine patrol in the Proxima Centauri system, another waste of resources. Status report, he commanded, more from habit than necessity. All sectors clear, Commander, replied Navigation Officer Miratex. Just the usual merchant traffic between. She stopped abruptly, her sensor crystals pulsing with sudden energy. Sir, detecting unusual radiation patterns at coordinates 47, Mark 3. Dexval moved to her station, his experience telling him something was wrong. The radiation signature didn't match any known ship type in their database. Launch probe drones. Full spectrum analysis. The drones streaked away from the Eternal Vigilance, their sensors probing the seemingly empty space. As they approached the coordinates, they revealed something impossible, a ship, but one unlike anything in Zirconian records. Its hull seemed to phase in and out of normal space-time, becoming visible only when directly scanned. By the first light, Dexval whispered. The vessel's design was alien, its technology apparently operating on principles that defied Zirconian understanding. Open communications, all frequencies. After a tense moment, a response came. The view screen activated, showing the interior of the unknown ship. Dexval found himself facing a bipedal being with pale skin and no scales, a human. The commander's secondary breathing gills fluttered in shock. This is Captain Thomas Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Constellation, the human said in perfect galactic standard. We've experienced a minor malfunction in our phase shift drive. The radiation leak gave away our position. Earth. The pre-FTL world that abandoned monitoring just 8 cycles ago. Dexval's mind raced. This was impossible. The technology level displayed by this ship was centuries beyond what Earth should have achieved. Captain Rodriguez, Dexval replied carefully, we're reading significant technological signatures from your vessel that exceed known human capabilities. Rodriguez smiled, a gesture Dexval would later learn could mean many things in human expression. Known capabilities can be deceiving, Commander. We've made some advances since your people stopped watching us. At Project Ascendant's command center, Dr. Hammond and General Matthews watched the encounter through the constellation's quantum link. It wasn't exactly how we planned to reveal ourselves, Olivia noted. But perhaps it's better this way. One ship, apparently damaged, seeming almost harmless. Matthews nodded. While our full fleet remains undetected, and our colonies stay hidden in phase space. Speaking of which, he turned to a different display showing hundreds of human ships and installations, all invisible to conventional detection methods. Back in space, Commander Dexval was following protocol, though every instinct told him this situation was far from routine. Captain Rodriguez, will assist with your repairs. However, I must inform you that unauthorized technological advancement among monitored species requires immediate report to the High Council. Unauthorized. Rodriguez's tone remained pleasant, but carried a new edge. Commander, with all due respect, we didn't realize we needed authorization to advance our own civilization, especially after your people abandoned their observation posts. The Zirconian Empire maintains peace through controlled technological development, Dexval explained. It prevents dangerous advances from destabilizing galactic society. Interesting perspective, Rodriguez replied. Though I wonder, does it really maintain peace, or just maintain Zirconian dominance? Before Dexval could respond, his sensor officer called out an alarm. Commander, multiple ships decloaking around us, human vessels. The space around the Eternal Vigilance shimmered as 5 more ships phased into normal space-time. Each was larger than the constellation, their designs more obviously militant. Don't worry, Commander, Rodriguez said calmly. They're just here to ensure our repairs go smoothly. We've learned it's best to have backup when meeting new civilizations. In the following hours, as the Zirconian crew assisted with the constellation's repairs, they discovered something that shook their worldview. The humans hadn't just advanced, they'd taken an entirely different path of technological evolution. Their phase shift drive didn't bend space like Zirconian FTL technology. It slipped between dimensional planes. Their quantum communications didn't rely on entanglement, but on something the humans called probability tunneling. Dexval stood in the constellation's engine room, watching human engineers work with technology he barely understood. How? He finally asked Rodriguez. How did you advance so far in just 8 cycles? You left behind traces of your technology, Rodriguez explained. But instead of copying it, we used it as inspiration to think differently. You showed us what was possible, then we found our own way to achieve it. When the repairs were complete, Dexval returned to his ship with a profound sense of unease. As the Eternal Vigilance prepared to depart, Rodriguez left him with one final message. Commander, when you report this to your High Council, please include this. Humanity is emerging onto the galactic stage not as a primitive species seeking guidance, but as equals expecting respect. How the Zirconian Empire responds to this will determine the nature of our future relationship. As the human ships phased out of normal space, disappearing from all sensors, Dexval knew the galaxy was about to change. The Zirconians had made a critical mistake in dismissing humanity's potential. Now they would have to face the consequences of their arrogance. In Project Ascendant, Dr. Hammond watched the encounter's final moments. Well, she said to General Matthews, I suppose we can move to Phase 3 ahead of schedule. Indeed, Matthews agreed. Time to show the galaxy just how far humanity has come, and how far we're willing to go to maintain our independence. Diplomatic deception. The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime's diplomatic quarter caught the light of 3 setting suns, casting prismatic shadows across the Grand Assembly chamber. High Administrator JYX Tal stood before the gathered Zirconian High Council, his scales shifting between shades of agitation as he delivered the impossible news. The humans have not only achieved faster-than-light travel, he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber, they have developed technology that operates on principles our scientists claim should be impossible. Former observer Kethran, now serving as special advisor on human affairs, stood at the back of the chamber. His warnings from 8 cycles ago had been ignored. Now, watching the Council's reaction to humanity's emergence, he felt a complex mixture of vindication and concern. Impossible is a strong word, Council Elder ZYX Era stated, her ancient crystalline growths glowing with skepticism. Perhaps their achievements have been exaggerated. The chamber's main holographic display activated, showing the sensor readings from the Eternal Vigilance's encounter. This is no exaggeration, Commander Dexval reported from his position before the Council. Their ships don't just move through space, they exist partially outside of it. Our sensors can't track them unless they choose to be seen. In orbit above Nexus Prime, the human diplomatic vessel Emissary hung in space like a challenge to Zirconian supremacy. Its crystalline lattice hull design seemed to mock their own architectural style, while incorporating elements that defied their understanding of physics. Aboard the Emissary, Ambassador Diana Patel adjusted her formal uniform and reviewed the mission parameters with her team. Remember, she addressed the assembled diplomats and military advisors, we're not here to ask for admission to their empire. We're here to establish terms for peaceful coexistence. Captain Rodriguez, now serving as military attaché, nodded. Our fleet remains undetected in phase space. The Zirconians have no idea how many ships we actually have, or where our colonies are located. Let's keep it that way, Diana replied. The best negotiating position is one where your opponent doesn't know the full extent of your capabilities. The diplomatic reception began in the Grand Assembly's upper chambers. Diana led her team through the enormous doors, their footsteps echoing on floors made of something between crystal and metal. High Administrator JYX Tal approached, flanked by council members. Ambassador Patel, he greeted, performing the traditional Zirconian gesture of diplomatic welcome. Your arrival has generated much discussion among our people. I imagine it has, Diana replied smoothly. Finding out that a species you dismissed as primitive has not only advanced but taken an entirely different technological path must be quite shocking. JYX Tal's scales rippled with barely contained reaction. The Zirconian Empire has guided the technological development of countless species. Our methods ensure stable advancement and prevent dangerous disruptions to galactic order. Guided or controlled? Diana asked, her tone remaining pleasant. Because from our perspective, your empire seems more interested in maintaining its technological superiority than in truly helping other species advance. Before JYX Tal could respond, Council Elder ZYX Era intervened. Perhaps we should discuss humanity's unprecedented advancement. Our scientists are particularly interested in your phase shift technology. Of course, Diana smiled. We're happy to share information about our technological principles. After we've established formal diplomatic relations as equals, not as a guided species under Zirconian control. The negotiations that followed stretched over days. The humans revealed carefully selected aspects of their technology, enough to demonstrate their advancement but never the full extent of their capabilities. The Zirconians, for their part, struggled to reconcile their traditional role as technological gatekeepers with the reality of a species that had bypassed their control entirely. In a private meeting chamber, Kethran found himself face-to-face with Captain Rodriguez. "You used our own surveillance against us," the former observer stated. "The quantum signatures we left behind became the foundation for something new," Rodriguez finished. "But not in the way you might think. We didn't copy your technology. We looked at it and asked, what if there's a completely different way to achieve the same goal?" Kethran's scale shifted to a deep blue of realization. "You took an evolutionary leap sideways instead of forward. While we expected any advancing species to follow our technological path, we created our own path," Rodriguez confirmed. "And we're not the only ones who could do this. How many other species might achieve similar breakthroughs if given the freedom to develop without Zirconian guidance?" The implications of that question resonated through the halls of power on Nexus Prime. The Zirconian Empire had maintained its position through technological superiority and controlled development. Now they faced a species that had not only bypassed their control but demonstrated that their entire approach to technological advancement might be fundamentally flawed. In her private quarters aboard the emissary, Ambassador Patel received a secure quantum transmission from Earth. Dr. Hammond's image appeared in the air before her. "The Zirconians still haven't detected our observation posts in their core systems," Olivia reported. "They have no idea we've been studying them since before we revealed ourselves." "Good," Diana replied. "Tomorrow we present our terms for peaceful coexistence. They need to understand that the galaxy is changing. The age of Zirconian technological dominance is over. And if they refuse to accept that," Diana's expression hardened slightly, "then we demonstrate just how far humanity has advanced. The phase shift drive isn't our only breakthrough that would shake their understanding of what's possible." As the diplomatic negotiations entered their final phase, both sides knew the galaxy stood on the brink of transformation. The humans had revealed themselves not as supplicants seeking admission to the galactic community, but as harbingers of a new era where technological development could no longer be controlled by a single empire. The question that remained was whether the Zirconians would adapt to this new reality, or try to maintain their control through more desperate measures. New Dawn. High Administrator JYX Tao stood alone in his private chambers, watching the swirling lights of Nexus Prime's night sky. His reflection in the crystal walls showed scales that had dulled from their usual vibrant hue, a sign of deep stress in his species. A soft chime announced the arrival of his most trusted advisor. "The military council has made their decision," announced Vorthak, the Empire's chief of defense. "They believe we must act now, before the humans can spread their influence further." "You mean before they can show other species that our guidance isn't necessary?" JYX Tao replied bitterly. "How many ships? We've mobilized the 3rd and 4th fleets. Over 300 vessels, our most advanced weapons. The humans have revealed only a handful of ships. Even with their phase shift technology, they cannot hope to eat." A sudden alert cut through their conversation. The chamber's holographic display activated automatically, showing chaos erupting across Zirconian space. Hundreds of human vessels were appearing simultaneously throughout the Empire, phasing into normal space around key military installations, trading hubs, and governmental centers. Ambassador Diana Patel's image appeared on every communication channel across Nexus Prime. "High Administrator, I believe it's time we had a frank discussion about the future." In Project Ascendant's command center, Dr. Hammond and General Matthews watched the operation unfold. "Operation Revelation is proceeding as planned," reported Captain Rodriguez from his position commanding the human fleet near Nexus Prime. "All targets acquired. No casualties on either side." "The Zirconians are scrambling their fleets," Lieutenant Tanaka added from her tactical station. "But they can't get a weapons lock on our ships. Our phase state oscillation makes their targeting systems useless." At that moment, in the Zirconian High Council chamber, Ambassador Patel stood before the assembled leadership of an empire that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. Her presence there was both a diplomatic courtesy and a demonstration of power. Human phase shift technology had allowed her to transport directly into the most secure facility on Nexus Prime. Let me be clear, she addressed the stunned council. Humanity has no interest in replacing Zirconian dominance with our own. What we want is fundamental change in how galactic civilization functions. You speak of change while holding our worlds hostage, Elder ZYX Era accused. We speak of change while demonstrating why the old way cannot continue, Diana corrected. Your empire's policy of controlling technological development hasn't brought stability, it's brought stagnation. Look at what humanity achieved in 8 cycles when free to explore our own path. Former observer Catherine stepped forward. She's right. Our assumption that technological progress must follow a specific path has blinded us. The humans didn't just advance, they found entirely new principles of physics we never considered. And we're not the only ones who could do this, Diana continued. Every species has the potential to see things differently, to find new paths forward. The galaxy doesn't need a controlling empire. It needs an alliance of equals, each contributing their unique perspectives. High Administrator Jawyx Tao, who had just arrived from his chambers, studied the holographic displays showing human ships throughout Zirconian space. And if we refuse this alliance, then we reveal the rest of our advancements, Diana replied calmly. What you've seen is only a fraction of what humanity has achieved. We've been studying your civilization since before we revealed ourselves. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, and exactly how to neutralize your military capability without causing a single casualty. To demonstrate her point, every weapon system across the Zirconian defense network suddenly went offline simultaneously. Their quantum computers froze. Their ship's engines ceased functioning. For 30 seconds, the mightiest military force in known space was completely powerless. When the systems came back online, the message was clear. The age of Zirconian technological supremacy was over. In the days that followed, a new galactic order began to take shape. The Zirconian Empire transformed into the foundation of allied worlds, with humanity playing a key role not as rulers, but as innovators and advocates for unrestricted scientific development. Dr. Hammond stood with General Matthews on the observation deck of humanity's new embassy on Nexus Prime, watching ships from dozens of species move through the crowded space lanes. They're already adapting, she noted. 3 species have presented theoretical models that approach physics from completely new angles. That's what happens when you remove artificial constraints on innovation, Matthews replied. The Zirconians thought they were maintaining stability by controlling development. Instead, they were holding back a galaxy's worth of potential. Ambassador Patel joined them, fresh from another round of diplomatic meetings. The transition won't be easy. Centuries of cultural dominance don't disappear overnight. But the Zirconians are learning to be partners rather than overlords. And humanity? Matthews asked. What's our role in this new galaxy? Diana smiled, watching a group of Zirconian scientists eagerly discussing theories with their human counterparts. We're the reminder that there's always another way to solve a problem. That progress doesn't have to follow a predetermined path. And most importantly, that sometimes the greatest discoveries come when you're free to imagine something impossible. In his private observatory, former High Administrator Jawyx Tao watched the changing face of his civilization with a mixture of concern and growing acceptance. Beside him, Catherine compiled reports on new technological breakthroughs emerging across the galaxy. We thought we were guiding the galaxy forward, Jawyx Tao mused. Instead, we were holding it back. Our greatest mistake wasn't in abandoning our observation of Earth. It was in believing we could control the natural evolution of ideas, Catherine finished. The humans showed us that true progress comes not from following an established path, but from having the freedom to forge new ones. As night fell on Nexus Prime, ships of all species moved through space using a mixture of technologies. Traditional Zirconian drives alongside human phase shift systems and entirely new propulsion methods being developed by recently unleashed scientific communities. The galaxy was changing, growing, evolving in ways no one could have predicted. But what of our civilization? Kane demanded, struggling to maintain his military bearing as the changes began to affect him more deeply. What of our culture, our history? They will be preserved, Harbinger, 137 assured him, but transformed. As humanity's knowledge was preserved within me, sealed away until it was needed. Your people will not lose who they are. They will discover who they can become. Naira felt her consciousness expanding further, beginning to perceive the underlying patterns of reality itself. The ancient ones, they must have known this would happen eventually, that sealing humanity away was only a temporary measure. They knew. The human confirmed. They understood that evolution cannot be permanently halted, only delayed. They sealed us away not to prevent this future, but to give the galaxy time to prepare for it. The transformation continued to spread, affecting not just living beings but the very fabric of space-time around them. The battlefield that had been their world was becoming a laboratory of evolution, each particle of existence exploring new possibilities. There will be those who resist, Harbinger 137 warned. Other civilizations who, like the ancient ones, prefer the illusion of control to the reality of infinite change. They will see what has happened here, and they will be afraid. Let them come, Cain declared, his form now shifting between solid matter and pure energy. We will show them what we have learned, what humanity has taught us. The human's expression showed something like pride. Now you begin to understand. This was always humanity's true purpose, not to rule, not to conquer, but to show others that the boundaries they accepted were never real. That consciousness itself is the key to unlocking the universe's true nature. Naira looked out over their transforming world, seeing not destruction but rebirth. The Nexoid threat had been neutralized not through violence but through forced evolution, their perfect order shattered and reformed into something far more profound. What happens now? She asked, her voice resonating across multiple dimensions. Now, Harbinger 137 said, you begin your true evolution. And the galaxy learns once again why humanity had to be sealed away, because we dared to show that reality itself is nothing more than consciousness waiting to be reshaped. Time had lost its meaning on the transformed world. What had once been a battlefield was now a swirling nexus of possibility, where consciousness and reality danced in endless patterns of evolution. Naira, her form now as fluid as thought itself, watched as the last remnants of the old order gave way to the new. The signal is spreading, she observed, her awareness extending far beyond planetary boundaries. Other civilizations are detecting the changes here. They're beginning to understand what's been unleashed. Harbinger 137 stood at the apex of their crystalline spire, its form now a living window into dimensions beyond normal comprehension. Yes, the galaxy awakens to the truth that humanity knew ages ago, that consciousness is not bound by physical laws, but shapes them. The transformed Nexoid entities, no longer bound by their mechanical hive mind, had become something unprecedented. They wove through space-time like living art, each one an experiment in what existence could become when freed from conventional limits. Cain, his warrior's spirit evolved into something far more profound, directed his attention to the distant stars. Ships approaching. Many ships. The neighboring empires have noticed our transformation. Of course, the humans said. They feel the ripples of change spreading through the fabric of space-time. Some will come seeking understanding. Others will come with weapons, believing they can contain what has been unleashed. The sky above them shimmered as the first wave of alien vessels entered the system. Representatives from a dozen species, some hostile, some curious, all drawn by the unprecedented energies radiating from their transformed world. They fear what they don't understand, Naira noted, her researcher's instincts now operating on levels that transcended conventional science. Just as the ancient ones feared humanity. Fear is a natural response to fundamental change, Harbinger 137 explained. But fear itself can evolve into understanding. Watch. The approaching ships entered the sphere of influence created by their transformed world. Their weapons, their shields, their very structure began to respond to the new physics they encountered. Some tried to resist, their crews desperately attempting to maintain their conventional forms. Others embraced the change, their vessels becoming living extensions of evolved consciousness. This is why humanity had to be sealed away, the human continued. Not to prevent this moment, but to ensure that when it came, the galaxy would be ready to face the truth about existence itself. A massive dreadnought from the stellar Concordat, one of the oldest surviving civilizations, attempted to launch an attack. Its weapons fire dissipated into pure potential, its energies absorbed and transformed by the new laws of physics surrounding their world. The ship itself began to change, its crew experiencing the same awakening that had transformed the Nexoid forces. They cannot stop it, Cain observed. Any attempt to interact with us now only spreads the transformation faster. Evolution cannot be contained, Harbinger 137 agreed. The ancient ones learned this truth too late. They thought sealing humanity away would preserve their order. Instead, they only delayed the inevitable awakening of consciousness across the galaxy. More ships arrived, representing more civilizations. Some came in peace, drawn by the siren song of unlimited potential. Others came in war, only to find their weapons transformed into tools of evolution. The sphere of influence continued to expand, touching everything it encountered with the spark of true change. Naira watched as the transformation spread exponentially. This was always the plan, wasn't it? Not just saving our world from the Nexoid Empire, but triggering a galactic awakening. Humanity's gift to the universe, the human confirmed, is not power or technology, but the understanding that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of reality. Everything else, matter, energy, space, time, these are just the canvas upon which awareness paints its dreams. The scene around them had become indescribable in conventional terms. The once clear boundaries between species, between organic and mechanical, between matter and energy, all dissolved into a dance of pure potential. Each consciousness that encountered the transformation became a new experiment in what existence could be. But what of those who refused to change? Kane asked, watching as some ships fled the system, carrying news of what they'd witnessed to the far corners of the galaxy. They will learn, as all consciousness must, that stasis is an illusion, Harbinger 137 said. The change comes to all, whether they welcome it or resist. The only choice is how they approach their own evolution. The transformed Xyrillian world had become a beacon, a lighthouse showing the way to a new age of existence. The effects rippled outward through space-time, touching every civilization, every consciousness that encountered them. This is humanity's true legacy, the human declared. Not conquest, not destruction, but the gift of unlimited becoming. We showed the universe that consciousness is not bound by natural law. It is natural law, waiting to recognize itself and evolve. Naira, her awareness now spanning multiple dimensions, understood at last. We didn't summon you to save us from the Nexoid Empire. We summoned you to save us from our own limitations. Yes, Harbinger 137 confirmed. The Ancient Ones sealed humanity away because we dared to show that reality itself is nothing more than consciousness dreaming of what it might become. Now that dream awakens across the galaxy, and nothing will ever be the same. The transformation continued to spread, a wave of awakening consciousness rippling through the cosmos. What had begun as a desperate last stand against extinction had become the catalyst for universal evolution. The age of limited existence was ending, and the age of infinite possibility had begun. Remember this moment, the humans said. It's formed now a living gateway to realities beyond imagination. It marks not just the return of humanity, but the awakening of all consciousness to its true potential. The universe is not a place of fixed laws and boundaries. It is a thought waiting to realize it can think differently.